welcome to the third episode in the Coppers and Brass series on Irish traditional music. This week we're going to be looking at the impact and contribution Irish travellers have made to traditional music, and we're going to look specifically at uilleann piping and the very specific stylistic interpretation that travellers make on the uilleann pipes. And I can't think of any better man to help us understand that better than Mickey Dunn. Mickey, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Tommy. It's good to be up here.
Thanks very much for coming up, and Mickey, and we'll be coming back to Mickey in a second. We'll also be taking a look into the Cobblestones bar, where a number of musicians assembled to help us celebrate this series. But in the meantime, let's have a look at some aspects of the subject that we're going to discuss. Friends and admirers of the Dorans and their style have been celebrating the Doran legacy every year in early spring since the year 2000.
Johnny and Felix were brothers, Johnny Doran and Felix Doran, but they played totally different. And you could hear in Felix's playing that he was used to playing with a fiddle player. Right. You can hear it, that he was comfortable with that. But whereas Johnny, nearly 99.9% of the time, he was a solo player. Johnny was doing stuff on pipes that people are only dreaming about today. He had a flowing style and a technique that very few people can do. He had something that people loved.
Johnny Doran is one of the best, if not the best piper in the world known, you know what I mean, and the best player in the world. But I'm trying to take little things off it, like, you know, trying to take little tips off it and how to do this, and I'm doing this wrong, like, you know. And hopefully in a couple of years to come, or a couple of months to come, I might be a piper.
Well, first I listened to my grandfather, and now I still listen to him. I pick up some of his notes, but there's no end to his music.
Johnny had a terrific style. I mean, I couldn't even get near where he did, you know. Like, when I was a kid, I used to try to play like him, you know, but it was just, you couldn't. He just had this beautiful lilt, you know. I can't describe him. He playing. That tom. And he... And that one. That one, yeah. And he had a high triplet, which was lovely. If you go. Yeah, really. I'll try.
Mickey Dunn has inherited much of the traveller piping and fiddling traditions from his father Paddy and his uncles Mick, Anta and Christy, known collectively as the Blind Dunn Brothers.
If you created a sound on the street, especially with the regulator style that the Dorans had, I mean, you'd know that people would be instantly attracted to it. A lot of pipers for a lot of years, they very seldom use the regulators at all, you know, or else use them very sparingly. But you can hear it in the Doran's music that it was part of the tune all the time. If you want me to give you an example, right? Like just one of the parts of Colonel Fraser, I'll just do a little bit of it. I'll play it the straight way first.
Okay.
Right? That's the way.
That's the ball standard.
That's probably the way it is written, but Johnny Doran and travelling pipers would have played it like this. You would put in an extra 10, 15 notes.
Someone said to me before that the reason the travellers sound like they do is that it's pain and years of on the road, and so that's something you can't teach. It's something that's innate in you, or something that you grow up with.
I have a feeling with settled playing that, and any good musician will do this, he'll plan the road he's going. I think with Doran, he'd let rip. What am I playing? Rakish Paddy, away we go.
And
all of a sudden, he's behind the steering wheel and it's roller coaster, and we're sitting here in County Clare and I'm looking at a few bendy roads, and I could see Johnny musically flying around these roads. Oh, I think we go left here. Do you know what I mean? At the last minute, oh, that looks like an interesting road, I'll turn her into that one.
Paddy Keenan is a traveller piper who was greatly influenced by Johnny Doran. He has developed his own unique style, which in turn has made a major impact on a new generation of pipers.
There's absolutely nothing he doesn't know about pipes. He knows them. You know, I described them one time to the lady as, you imagine the pipes were blown over him, you know?
Yeah, they're part of it. I mean, you can make him walk across the floor if you want to. It's just the absolute mastery.
He's the most natural player ever.
Yeah.
I think so. I'd put Paddy Keenan would be more Johnny Doran, you know what I mean? And then John Rooney would be Felix, you know?
John Rooney and his son Larry Rooney. They were a great influence. Now, we only stayed with them for a couple of weeks, but I'll tell you, for them couple of weeks, like, you know, amazing stuff. You know. And John, he corrected me on the Boys of Blue Hills hornpipe. I was doing the triplet wrong, going up, and he took the card. Give me that, he said. And he corrected it and said, that's how you should play it, keep it that.
John Rooney, the patriarch of the Doran Cash piping dynasty, was born in Crossmaglen, County Armagh in 1952 to Big John Rooney and Nan Doran, daughter of Felix Doran.
Thank God that the music didn't die, you know. Thank God John Rooney keeps it going, and fair play to the man, has been keeping it going along. If he didn't marry like Felix's daughter, maybe, who knows, I mightn't have played, no one might have played, the music might have been lost. And I'm going to say this, like, Felix's son Mikey, if Mikey Doran played the pipes for 6 months, I'd say he'd be the best player on this earth. And he's got a son, that young Mikey Jr., he's a fantastic piper. Same as Larry as well, he's a brilliant piper. He can play it through like 2 or 3 different ways, and I hope they've got to keep it going.
Well, lots of good music there and plenty of people playing music, and some great issues have been raised as well. And as I said earlier, we've got Mickey Dunn, piper from Limerick, piper and fiddle player I should say, from Limerick up to join us. Mickey, lots of stuff going on there and plenty of issues to discuss. But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about your own background in Irish traditional music.
Okay, well, I come from a family, they're called the Dunn family, Tommy, and they made their living solely from playing traditional Irish music back in the 30s, 40s and 50s and 60s, and they travelled all the way up to when we settled in I think we moved into the house in 1962, and even after that they still played music at flacioles and at horse fairs and at hurling matches, Munster finals, and that's how we made our living. That's how my dad and my especially my oldest brothers Patrick and John, they would have gone busking all day and they would have brought money home so we could live, you know.
And would that have been in the family going back generations?
Oh yes,
as far as you're aware, yeah? My
dad's father was a fiddle player, old John Dunn, and his father, and it goes back, fiddle playing goes back in my family for generations.
And you play fiddle and pipes?
I do, Tommy. I play the fiddle, but I'm really a piper. You know, I've been playing the pipes for 40 years now. And my 2 daughters, I have 2 lovely fiddle players. My daughter, Niamh and Breed, and I kind of, when they were starting off the fiddle, I kind of took it up with them. You know, so I play the fiddle a bit, but I wouldn't consider myself a fiddle player by any means. I'm a piper, really.
Well, I'm particularly fascinated by the pipes, but I'm also very interested in the sound that travellers seem to get out of pipes that try as I can't get, and nor can most other people. There's something, you can call it traveller style. I don't know whether you want to put a label on it or not, but certainly when I listen to you and Paddy Keenan and Finbar Furey and John Rooney and Johnny Purcell and people like that, I hear something going on in the pipes that I have never heard anywhere else. What's going on? What's your little secret that you won't share with me?
I don't think it's a secret, Tommy, but I think I wouldn't have known anything about this, what I'm going to say now, back when I was starting off, because we didn't talk about rhythms, we didn't talk about technique, we didn't know anything about that. But all the pipers that you have mentioned, to have a particularly unusual rhythm, you know, and it is a sense of freedom, maybe. It's a sense of a flow, a spiritual flow or something that comes out in their music. I mean, Johnny Doran has it. You can hear it. Felix Doran, when he plays a tune, you can hear it straight away. And my father would have always stressed to me that was the most important thing. No, he wouldn't have used the word rhythm because we wouldn't have known that.
The concept he wouldn't have known.
He would have said, look, just make sure you keep the flow going, keep it keep it's, you know. And I think that's something that is unique to travelling people.
Well, Mickey, do you think that the way travellers interpreted music had anything to do with the circumstances in which they played the music?
I suppose, Tom, you have to try and think about where the people were coming from. You know, when you depend on music and playing on the street for your living, well then, Tommy, you have to adjust to what people like. You know, and if you went out on the street and you played music for, we'll say, 2 days, and you got no kind of reaction whatsoever, and you made no few shillings to feed your family, well, you would come out the third day and you would try to do something different. And they always improvise. Like, I mean, you can hear Johnny Doran when you can imagine what he was doing on the street and regulators,
changing it all the time,
and changing the tunes and playing Rakish Paddy 5 different ways. And it was all my father. He'd busk on the street. He could play jigs and reels. He could play Moore's melodies on the fiddle, and he would know what would attract people's attention. And he could play classical music by Fritz Kreisler, and he would be up the fiddle, up the third, fifth position, and people would pass and they'd hear this and they would stop.
He could play classical music as well?
Oh, he could play classical music as good as anybody.
Had he a big repertoire?
Oh, he had hundreds and hundreds of classical tunes. There's a story about him if you want me to tell you about it.
Yeah, sure.
They would also busk the queues at the picture houses and at the Cork Opera House. One year, my dad was busking and he was walking up through the crowd with his fiddle, and he'd have the bag on his coat to collect a few bob. And the manager from the Cork Opera House came out, and he was playing classical music because he knew that's what people were going in to hear.
That's what the punter wanted.
And the manager said to him, how would you like to play a few tunes before the show starts? And they brought him in, and he played for 6 weeks classical music in the Cork Opera House.
My God.
But he did that, Tommy, because he knew that the people he was playing for liked that style of music, kind of music, and he knew that he would get his few bob. And he had a big family at home to feed. So you did what was needed. And like, I'm just talking about Johnny and Felix Doran when they would play, like the sound that they would create, like not alone from the chanter, but the drones and the regulators. And
was that in response to the need to compete in the open air setting with the noise of people moving about? They had to play it a little bit louder than you normally would play indoors.
I imagine it would, but it would also be to attract attention.
Yeah,
Tommy, you know. You want
to make it different.
You'd want people to come and people to stand around you. And then when people would, and you would turn on the style and you would get money. Now, there's another thing about it that I have to say here, because my dad taught me this himself. This was all for earning a living. This was all for making money on the street. But when they went home, my dad camped with Johnny Doran one time, and he was telling me at the end of the night when they were home, he had the fiddle and Johnny Doran had the pipes, and they played, and the music was played in a different way. You know, they were playing for pleasure.
That must have been magical.
And I would have imagined if I had a camera and something to record it.
What a pity.
When they would be relaxed and they would have their day's work done, because that was their work, that was their job, Tommy, that was their work to feed their families.
But they also could enjoy it.
And then they sat down at the fire when all the pressure was off and they played music, and I can imagine that was just spectacular. Okay. Do you know?
Mickey, we're going to continue chatting in a while, but we want to go down to the Cobblestones Bar because, as you know, we've had lots of musicians who've come along to help us celebrate this series. So we're going to go down and join a number of musicians, Martin Nolan and friends, playing a couple of tunes, Silver Spear, and a big tune popular with travellers, Rakish Paddy. Martin Nolan and friends in the Cobblestones bar, and the music was fairly jumping there, Mickey.
Oh, it was hopping. That's good. That's what we like.
That's the way we like it, indeed. Mickey, as well, we talked about variation and rhythm and that, but there's also something around Travellers' music that I can't quite put my finger on, and it's got to do with passion and something coming from inside. It's intangible. What is that?
Well, I think I can speak very, very openly about my dad, and because he was my dad, and I spent so much time with him. But he loved the music, Tommy. He loved the fact that he was following the Irish music, and that was his pride. They took a great pride in it. He loved what he was doing. And you must remember too, for people that hadn't very much, they didn't have very much money. Sometimes they probably wouldn't have had maybe enough to eat. You know, if he had a bad week busking, it reflected back on us.
If the weather was bad and they couldn't busk.
But he always, Tommy, always, and he had such a love. And even when I was starting off, and I could see it in him, you know, I could see the pride that, and he loved the music, and he loved the fact that he followed, and he loved the fact that he was passing it on to me and my other brothers as well. And he could play slow air, Tommy, and honest to God, he would make the hair stand in the back of your neck.
Well, I've heard you play slow airs, and it does the same effect with me, so it's
and they have, you see, it's not all Irish music. Is a lot of the time it's about set dancing, and a lot of the time it's about bounce and enjoyment and high life and spirit and all that kind of stuff. But then there's an awful sadness with some Irish tunes as well, and it comes across in slow air playing, you know.
More so than any, but it comes across in the dance music as well.
It does too, yeah, and that's part of it too, that sometimes is forgotten, you know.
And what's your approach to slow air? I mean, where do you go when you get inside that tune, in your head, in your soul?
I suppose what I'm trying to do, Tommy, is reflect on my own personality, my own spirit. I try to bring that out in a tune, and I love when I get that feeling playing a slow air myself. You know, I feel that I'm after doing something that's kind of to my mind now, not for everybody else. Sometimes I play a slow air and I say, I think I got that pretty right to suit me. Do you know, I get that feeling. You know.
Is the mood taking you at the moment for even a wee bit of it?
I'll give it a try.
Go on, do.
Who knows? You never know what might come out here now.
Doesn't matter. It'll be good, I know.
I'll try it slow air.
You're just a part of it anyway. You don't need it. Wonderful, Mickey, and it defies description. It really is. It's awesome. I've got the hairs are still standing on the back of my head. Mickey, you're a wonderful, wonderful interpreter of slow airs in particular.
Thank you, Tommy.
Mickey, that brings us to the end of our chat. It just remains for me to thank you and your family and other people from the travel community for the immense gift that you've given to the Irish nation. The traditional music wouldn't be in the same shape without it. You have made an indelible mark on it. And on behalf of everybody, I want to thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, and
it's a pleasure.
I hope to have a tune with you again.
Of course, we might have a tune after all this.
Indeed, thanks very much, Mickey. And that was Mickey Dunn, and his contribution spoke for itself, and very elegantly put as well. And of course, I enjoyed the music, as I always do, from Mickey. Next week, we're going to look at the impact of Irish travellers' music on the non-travelling community, and our special guest that week will be Leo Rickard, well-known piper from Dublin. and he will be joining us in the studio here to discuss how Travellers music has impacted beyond their own community and indeed worldwide. We'll also be going back to the Cobblestones to join our many friends down there who are helping celebrate this series. In the meantime, thanks for coming along, joining us, and I hope you'll make it to the next programme. Take care, God bless, Slán Abhaile.